Ladies and gents, we're live. Just gonna close the door. All right. Hello, beautiful friends, whom there is none of you live with me. However, somebody made a comment about, what are your thoughts on SMMA being saturated? So I was like, cool, that would be a good video. Because I do think that of all niches, I guess you could be in the agency space, SMMA seems to have gotten the most exposure. So this is a good topic. JM, hello, how are you? Without further ado, I'll wait a couple minutes before getting into this topic for a few friends to join. And then we'll get rolling on this topic. Eugenio Silva, hello friend. Long time no see. I hope you are well. I had some food here, man, so as friends join in, I will be eating. That's great. Glad to hear you're well, friend. All right, well, there's gonna be a replay, so let's get rolling. Is SMMA saturated? This is a good topic. I think this is a really good topic to discuss. So when you think about saturation, I like to think about blue oceans, red oceans. And ultimately, it's much easier to build a successful agency or a successful business in any industry, for that matter, in a blue ocean, especially in a blue ocean that's growing. However, just because an ocean is red does not mean it's possible to build a big agency. It just means you need to be a little bit more savvy than somebody who's entering a blue ocean. I was 19 years old when Panorama started. I was in a blue ocean. I wasn't very savvy business-wise. And at that time, there was such high demand for Amazon advertising management and low supply of experts to provide that service that it was very easy to sign clients. That's a little bit different than SMMA. I think SMMA is a bit different. I don't know. I don't have experience in that realm, in that industry, in that niche. But SMMA is not really a niche. That's kind of like a service offering. That's an offer. There's no definition as to what the market is within SMMA. So when people say, yeah, is SMMA saturated? Well, it depends. Are you doing SMMA for restaurants? Are you doing it for restaurants in the United States or Romania? Are you doing it for, like what type of business are you doing SMMA for? In what country are you doing it in? In what cities are you doing it in? There's a lot of details that makes up the ICP, which is the ideal client profile. And so, no, I don't think that SMMA is saturated. I think there is still ridiculous opportunity for you to build a social media marketing agency. It's just not as easy as it was 4 years ago when you could approach any kind of business and sign clients, because there's obviously a lot more people doing it now. So you got to go a little bit more specific with your niche. You might have to be a little bit more patient with your outreach strategies and do more outreach than you would have had to 4 or 5 years ago. This is really the only difference. I do think that there probably is saturation within certain niches in certain parts of the world. So for example, the example I just gave was if you're targeting restaurants in the United States and you're doing SMMA, well, probably it's a pretty competitive niche relative to, I don't know, optometrists. I believe those are people who make glasses, if I'm not mistaken. Probably restaurants is more competitive. So yeah, like that's just an intuitive guess. That's all I'm going to say though, is that it really depends on how you define your ICP, which is your ideal client profile. Assuming we're going to stick with the service offering of SMMA. So, and SMMA is so broad, so broad. Social media marketing. I mean, there's tons of different social media platforms, and that in itself is still so vague, right? So that's my opinion on social media and the saturation of it. If there's any other questions relative to what I just said, please feel free to ask. Hello, Cerebros. Hello, Matt. Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well. Let me triple the number. Hello from the Philippines. Very cool. Well, for those of you who just joined, I just talked about the saturation of SMMA. Somebody asked that question in the comments, and I thought it was a really good question, so I wanted to address it. With that being said, if you guys have any questions that I can answer live for you, please ask the questions for anybody who's joining. I will put something in the chat. I'll wait for some questions. I'm not going to rant about nothing in this live. That was kind of my main topic I wanted to cover. The urgency to use or importance of Amazon DSP. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time in Amazon DSP, and I would say that it's not that important for most sellers. It's more important for sellers that are selling CPG, that are in CPG, and are doing over probably at least $150,000 a month in revenue in CPG. So if you're doing that, cool. I think you should run it. But DSP, I think, becomes actually much more important for accounts that are doing $1 million a month in CPG. Or in other categories as well. Honestly, at that scale, at $1 million a month, everybody should be running DSP. At least to test it out. Yeah, I think Cerebros, the most difficult thing for a business owner in a red ocean and in a blue ocean. I think the most difficult thing in a red ocean is standing out because it's a red ocean. So, you know, the client acquisition process is going to be more difficult because it's harder for you to actually stand out. And it's hard for you to compete against these giant sharks who are in the red ocean making $1 million to $500,000 a month plus. Sometimes, you know, much more than that. So it can be hard to establish yourself, but it's possible. A really good example of somebody who's just crushed it in a red ocean as an agency is an agency called Client Boost, K-L-I-E-N-T, Boost. Jonathan Dane is the founder of that company. It's based out of California. And they went from like 0 to $1 million a month in like 4 or 5 years. So And they do Google ads, and they also do CRO. So they're doing Google ads and CRO, but like those two things have been around since like the 2000s, since like early 2000s. So that's a very red ocean, very competitive. But Jonathan had a little bit of experience. He working at an ad agency prior to starting Client Boost, but it was still a grind for him. The client acquisition was very much a grind. He's posted a lot of blogs on his scale from 0 to 100,000 MRR, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, etc. Really good reads. Highly recommend it. Eugenio, the best book I've ever read, is probably those blog posts by Client Boost and how they've scaled their agency recently. I read those things every once in a while. I've probably read them all like a few times. Cerebros, let me know your thoughts on that. In a blue ocean, I don't know. There's not much difficulty in a blue ocean. I'll be honest with you. How did your now co-founder go about scaling back up the agency when you left? Alex, is this the Alex that I met in Miami? I don't know. Maybe we didn't meet. I think I met somebody with that name in Miami. Have a similar role coming up so the insight could help lots. It is lit. Dude, the fact that I remember that, weird. That's really cool. Stoked that I could tell it was you in that tiny ass profile picture that I'm looking at. How did your new co-founder go about scaling back up the agency when you left? Really good question. She focused relentlessly on the Dream 100 marketing strategy. Ladies and gents, I'm gonna pull this up right now. This is so relevant. I have the page right here. Page 102. The book is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Alex, read this book. Skip to this page, 102. Now, the Dream 100 strategy was popularized by Russell Brunson, which probably everybody knows Russell. But what most people don't understand is that Chet Holmes is actually the original creator. Chet Holmes is this fucking legendary, badass marketing sales executive. Read this, listen to this quote. All right. When I doubled sales 3 years in a row, Charlie Munger said, and I quote, "Are you sure we're not lying, cheating, and stealing? In all my years, I've never seen anybody double sales 3 years in a row." So he worked for one of Charlie Munger's companies for a certain period of time. He ran the ad sales for one of his magazines. And if you're not familiar with the Dream 100 strategy, I just recommend you Google it. But Destiny, what she did, Alex, is Destiny went out on LinkedIn every day for like a year and a half straight, 2 years straight. She still does it sometimes now. It blows my mind away. And she looked for our ideal client. And she found also, she was hunting relentlessly for our ideal clients and ideal partners. What's the difference between ideal client and ideal partner? Ideal client is just someone that you can work with, it's your ideal client profile. So who's your ideal client? You should have some form of client avatar, ICP, whatever. Cool. Second thing, you should have an ideal partner profile, an IPP, which basically defines someone who, what you're looking for is kind of in a partner is someone who's influential in your space or someone who has access to the ideal clients. And so that could be anybody who has a platform. So like anybody who runs a podcast, that on that podcast, there are listeners who are your ideal clients. Fanatical Prospecting is also a really good book. And Destiny posted content relentlessly, and she added people relentlessly on LinkedIn. She now has like 15, 16,000 followers on LinkedIn or something like this. And Yeah, man, that was it. It reached if you've ever heard of the 100th monkey effect, after like 9 months of her doing that, she was getting 12 months is more realistic, but she was getting invited to like every single podcast and speaking engagement to speak at. And now she's an industry thought leader in our space. So that's how she really scaled. She focused hard on inbound marketing. She focused hard on building a personal brand attached to the Better AMS brand. And yeah, man. So congrats on your boss wanting you to run it for him. And hopefully that helps. How big can you scale an e-com agency? Because service delivery is more difficult since every client is so different, unlike in the gym niche where the process is very repeatable. Space 5. You answered your own question. You make the process repeatable and you sign clients that are all very much the same, very similar. And or you send clients that kind of match your ICP and you execute on the same universal strategies that should work across every account. You're basically building a productized service. A productized service is one in which you have your strategies, you implement your strategies, any account that you take on, that's what you're implementing. And yeah, it crushes. That's what we have in Better AMS. Literally, like any account we take on, same process. There's nothing really custom about it. There's the occasional custom request from a client. Yeah, that's normal. But yeah. Cerebros. It doesn't take a lot of time and money to stand out. Sometimes if you just take a more unique approach, you can stand out quite easily. Again, like zig when everybody's zagging, or when everybody's zigging, zag. I forget which way it goes. That's a good book by, I want to say Dan Kennedy, but I don't know if he wrote that book. Anyways, great concept. But yeah, it depends on the niche. Sometimes in specific red oceans, it can be expensive. But usually it's not like crazy. Usually if you, usually you can find ways, and you can do it bootstrapped with very little capital. And it might take you 2-3 months, but nothing crazy. Thoughts on Dan Kennedy? Yeah, he's great. I think he became a drug addict in his later life, and but his earlier work was really good. Alex, great. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Where do you go find lead email address? Andy Craig. Yeah, we use certain tools. Like we just find the prospects on LinkedIn, or you can put in like their company brand name, their domain, and there's certain tools that can pull the email addresses, like hunter.io, and pretty much the most common tools if you Google like how to find email addresses for prospects, like softwares for doing that. Hunter.io is pretty common. I forget the other tool we used. I actually liked it more than that. Anyways, they all work fine. Nathan, that's a fantastic question. And I've actually thought about this a lot. Really good question by Nathan Ross here. How do you test the market quickly? Snowvio, that's actually the tool I was thinking of. Thank you, Space5. Great tool. I like it more than Hunter.io. Okay. I have fantasized of another dimension where there is no time. And if there's a bubble in which I can enter that allows me to freeze time, or time does not pass by, I'm outside of time, I would love to build the systems around THM, Trojan Horse Marketing, and around some of the inbound strategies that we use at Better AMS to rapidly test market, like a rapid market testing system. And the way it works in my mind is you have about 4 to 5 virtual assistants, highly trained on prospecting, because this is actually the biggest bottleneck when it comes to testing a market. 4 to 5 VAs highly trained on prospecting. You got one VA manager of those 4 to 5. So you got one manager, about 4 prospectors. In a very niche vertical. That might have been repetitive. In a very niche. A good prospector can find about 5 to 10 prospects per day. So if you got about 4 people or 5 people, you can find about 50 to 25 prospects a day in a really niche category. If it's not that niche, you can probably find 20 a day. And so we're talking about 100 almost a day in leads. So 50 to 100, let's say. And I think 500 to 1,000 ideally is the ideal amount of prospects that you should outreach to before saying, you know what, this market didn't work out. And so, yeah, you would have those 4 prospectors, the 1 manager, you would have a web designer on hand who could quickly alter your website if the niche doesn't work out, or could create, various different sites, or like kind of just one site. And I guess you could just have one template site, and then if the original niche doesn't work out, you can quickly change the copy yourself in like a matter of an hour or 2. So yeah, that's the quickest way to find it. I think really outbound is the ultimate way to test the waters. But if you could get that done where you can find 25 to 50 prospects a day, and you can have a sales system or outreach system in place like THM, and you can reach out to these people as well, you'll probably need like a salesperson. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do it yourself, which is fine. If you're bootstrapping, you can do it yourself. The VAs can do most of the heavy lifting, but the ability to outreach 25 to 50 prospects a day is difficult. That you need a system with 4 or 5 people to kind of do something like that. If you want to have any form of customization and send like a personalized video or something like this, yeah. If you want to just send like a cold email, you don't need 5 people. But yeah. So, excuse me. That's what I would do, man. I would build a system that allows me to run, send out outreach at a very rapid rate. Yeah, it would be worth money, but not as much as what we're building right now. And I don't really care about the money that much, to be honest with you. I just really love Better AMS and what we do, and the team that we have, the direction that we're going with it. So yeah. But no, I would love to. I would have a fucking blast building that. That'd be amazing. And I think THM, the video that I released on YouTube, is more than enough information for anyone to go and look at that strategy and build that system out. There's one guy in Agency Enlightened who did it. His name's Chuck. He's a fucking legend. And he hired 3-4 VAs, and he sends about 1,000. I think it's 1,000, maybe it's 500 a month outreach. THM, Trojan Horses. And yeah, I love it. He really scaled it up, and I think he gets something like 3 to 5 discovery calls a week. I mean, he's in one niche. He didn't build it for the purpose of testing lots of different markets, but if that market that he's in ever dies down, he can just pivot that thing, and that's really exciting. So legendary skill to have is one where you learn how to master systems around outreach, because client acquisition is probably one of the most difficult things for most agency owners in the early stages. What would be the budget needed for this? Yeah, that's a good question also. What kind of budget is needed for a system like this? I'd say at one VA salary for prospecting is anywhere between on the very low end, $350 a month to 400, 450 on the higher end. So 4 people, You're looking at like $1,500 to $2,000 for about 5 people, depending on what salary you're giving. And that's a really cheap price to pay. Consider if you can pump out 500 to 1,000 outreaches per month at a customized level of THM. And you could do much more than that with just regular cold outreach still at a pretty custom level. So, yeah. Great question. Nathan, I've never seen you tune in to a YouTube live. Welcome, friends. Pleasure to meet you. Assuming you run an agency. We got about 10 people on. If you guys have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm going to stick around here for 5 minutes, answer some more questions, and then meditate, read, go to sleep, wake up, work on Agency Enlightened, workout, repeat until Christmas. Sam90, skill my agency past 5 figures ever since saw you on YouTube. Lit, dude, that's legendary. Congrats. Let's get you to 6 figures by the end of the year. Can't be too hard. What niche are you in, Sam? Do you think as a niche becomes more saturated, making content becomes more important? I think as a niche becomes more saturated, differentiation in your representation of self meaning your brand, how you reach out to people, everything about you becomes more important. Yeah. For web design, would THM work doing CRO audits of clients' websites? Absolutely. 100%. Whatever THM system you use, send a minimum of 500 and make sure that you really vet who your ICP is. You only find and reach out to those people. For those of you who missed the live stream or joined in late, we were talking about page 102. I feel like I'm in a fucking class. Page 102 of The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Fantastic book, highly recommend. Highly relevant. I'm finishing inbound marketing by the inbound marketing module in Agency Enlightened, which looks gorgeous, by the way. Really excited about that. Sometimes I post snapshots and previews of Agency Enlightened on Instagram for fun. So if anybody cares to see Agency Enlightened being built behind the scenes, follow me on Instagram. It's just first name, last name. Just grab that book on Audible. Excited to listen to it. Cool. Page 102. I don't know what that translates to in Audible. We'll definitely think more about differentiation. Cold looms, stopping working in e-com. Thanks for this thought. Space Vibe. Yeah. And like, if you noticed it has stopped working. Great. Like, because if everybody's doing that, yeah, you gotta do something else, you know? So if everybody's doing looms, this is really good thought exercise, you guys. And you got to be really honest with yourself, because it's difficult to say, everybody's doing looms. Like, who's everybody? What's your data set? You got to be really honest with yourself, because it's easy for the mind to just like rationalize in a dumb way and just think like, oh my God, I see like 4 people in this Facebook group talking about cold looms and they're not getting results. So I'm the 5th person. Everybody's doing it. Like, that's not a good data set. But if you have a good data set and you yourself have sent many looms and it's not performing well, and you think a lot of people are doing it, you know a lot of people are doing it as well, and it's not performing well for them either. Well, then the thought exercise becomes, if everybody's doing this, how can I invert this? What is the opposite of this? What can I do that is just like the polar opposite of this? Inversion is a beautiful mental model. So invert, friends. And that's really what I did 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing THM. Everybody was doing cold emails and like nobody was sending videos, and I was like, shit, this sucks. I'm gonna send some videos. And it resonated really well. Sounds like a lot more people are doing it now. I don't know for sure because I don't network with thousands of agency owners just yet. How do you handle those days when your mind is against you sometimes? That happens. It gets difficult to follow the routine to get results of sales. Yeah. Like I posted a video today. It's probably been the most difficult period of my life in the last 2-3 months, and it never goes away. It never goes away. The difficulty, struggling to stay focused, that never goes away. For me, I think the ability to stay focused and have really productive days, and how you achieve that is different for everybody. For me, I really need to meditate every day. I really need to, be in touch with divinity, and I have certain daily prayers and whatever, and I have certain things that I meditate on. And if I just don't do those things, man, I don't know. I just can't seem to focus throughout the day. So that's how it is for me. If I do those things consistently and I eat good and I sleep and I go to the gym and I meditate, yeah, those things all really help me. And if I drop any of those pillars, it seems to really affect me. Alex, How to Be an Adult, really good book, eh? I really like, that's one of my favorite books. For those of you who haven't read the book Alex just mentioned, you see if it's on my bookshelf. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. It's called How to Become an Adult. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but man, that is a good ass book. And that'll really give you that'll really increase your emotional maturity. It also kind of helps you just better deal with the stresses of life and not be so affected by them. When you started, how do you shift to be more self-focused and looking at others? Is there a particular event that happened? Alex, the event that happened was that I got in a relationship with a woman who I'm now no longer with. We still have a really good relationship, as we're like best friends, but I was in a relationship with her for like 4 years, and after about like 6 months of being in a relationship with her, I think it was just like, wow, like my heart opened a lot. And I would say I just had a lot more love in my life and realized that like materialistic gain was kind of was a desire that was kind of filling a void of love, basically. So for me, again, I think the answer is different for everybody, but for me, it was ultimately just opening up my heart and having more love in my life. Have you tried doing a follow-up phone call with those Loom videos? I have. People might be surprised and delighted to get a phone call follow-up. Yeah, I have done cold phone call follow-ups after sending Trojan Horse videos. The approach was lit. It was just like I would literally call the person. I'd be like, person would pick up, be like, hello, who is this? And I'd be like, hey Scott, it's Taylor from Better Message, just calling to see if you got the video I sent you a couple days ago over LinkedIn regarding XYZ. And usually they would be like, oh yeah, I did see that video. And sometimes they were like, let's schedule a call. I think I did 100 phone calls. I wanted to get a decent data set. I believe it was 100. And I would say that like 10 out of 100 phone calls resulted in getting a discovery call. Maybe it was like 7, but it was good enough to where I was like, okay, this should be done if we hire a sales rep. I didn't want to do it. Like it's too monotonous for me. I just fucking die doing stuff like that. I don't know. For me, in my brain at this like stage of business, I'm like, I need to do new creative stuff and be building systems. I don't really like to execute on the systems once they're built. Running them is not for me. Building them is for me. I can run them for a certain period of time, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, is it worth it? Maybe, yeah. If you're really struggling and you want to do everything possible to get clients, I think that it's a good thing to do. But it depends on your market. And for my market, it turned out well. I also only did that for people who had seen the Loom video, so I knew if they'd watched it. Do you still run LinkedIn ads, mate? Scott Rooney. We are not right now, but we have big plans to run lots of ads for Better AMS in 2022. Holy shit, it's 2021. Yeah, we're 2022 next year. Yeah, I really want to turn on the jets and fire up advertising for Better AMS. And LinkedIn ads is the utmost priority for us as a platform to run ads on. Any thoughts on visualization? Yeah, I think visualization is great, beautiful process. It kind of naturally happens throughout the day for me. I used to sit down every morning and like focus on visualization. Sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. The phone is a very powerful tool to bootstrap. All right, friends. I'm out of here. This was epic. I appreciate all of you. Great live. Gotta meditate, go to sleep, read. Much love, peace, and I'll see you guys in the next video.